Hello. A few weeks ago, I got an email from Valerie Carter of Carter and Son Toolworks in Seattle, Washington, asking if I would consider trying out their tools and possibly doing a video review of the tools. And about 10 days ago, I received these tools in the mail, and I have been putting them through their paces. And I have to say, I am very, very impressed. The tools built on enduring essentials of American-made quality and strength. Your work lasts for ages, so will your tools. Unconditional warranty. Carter and Son Toolworks, quality at its best, made in the USA. Now the tools are made from M42 cobalt high-speed steel, which is heat-treated to 68 on the Rockwell C scale. Provides a long-lasting, razor-sharp edge. Shipped sharp, stays sharp, easy to sharpen. The handles are made from 6061 T6 aircraft-grade aluminum. Strong, balanced, and chatter-resistant. Caution, this tool is very sharp. I really must say, for the most part, when you buy woodworking hand tools, whether it be a hand plane, a bench chisel, or lathe tools, the manufacturers usually just grind them to a basic bevel. They're basically shaping the tool. They're not trying to sharpen the tool. And they leave the final sharpening up to the end user. These ones are ready to use right out of the package. And when they say they are shipped sharp, they are not kidding. These things are excellent in terms of sharpness. Whoever they have doing the sharpening there certainly knows his stuff. So, just an overview. There's a 3/4 inch spindle roughing gouge, a 1/2 inch skew, 1/2 inch spindle gouge, 3/8 spindle gouge, and a detail tool, and a 5/8 bowl gouge. The spindle roughing gouge is a lot different than any other roughing gouge that I have. My other roughing gouges are forged from a flat piece of steel, whereas this is machined from a solid piece of steel. Has a full 5/8 inch shank to go into the handle, which eliminates the weak point of most roughing gouges. And the flute is machined from a solid bar rather than being forged bent from a flat piece of steel the way most roughing gouges are. That makes it a very solid tool. The handles, I was very surprised when I took them out of the package, actually, because when I saw they were aluminum, I assumed they would be pretty light, but whatever grade aluminum that is, that 6061 T6, must be one of the denser alloys of aluminum, because those have some pretty good heft to them. The shanks of all the tools have flats machined where the set screws bear, which is something I've never seen on any of my other tools, and I think that's a very good idea. It makes for a very positive. You don't have to over tighten them, and there'll still be no tendency for them to rotate inside in the handle. The half-inch skew is another tool that is, again, different than any of my other skews. Rather than being made from a flat bar, it's machined from a half-inch round piece. The sides are machined to give the flat sides, but since it was a round bar to start with, the bottom and top edges are both radiused, and that really helps in terms of traversing across the tool rest and rolling beads. It just works very, very well. I think I have a new favorite skew. The half-inch spindle gouge. It comes with a dual bevel, meaning it's ground to sharpen it and then ground at a slightly different angle to relieve the heel, which helps it to get into tight corners a little better. And as I've already said, these tools are sharp when you get them. 3/8 spindle gouge. And the handles are just very comfortable in the hand, very well shaped for spindle work. And the big plus for metal handles, to my mind, I have always preferred wooden handles, because just the feel of the handle in my hand is, I prefer holding onto a piece of wood than a piece of metal. But when you're sharpening tools, it is very nice to be able to take the tool shank out of the handle and just sharpen the tool. It's much more convenient. And also I have a few tools that where's that one? This particular bowl gouge, it's a 1/2-inch bowl gouge. I made that handle and put the tool into it. But when there's still a fair bit of flute left there, but it is pretty much at the point right now that when I put that in my one-way Varigrind jig, the ferrule is seated right against the jig, and I can't get at this point right now. I am basically exactly at the extension. When I put that in, I have exactly the extension I need. So in another few sharpenings, I'm not going to be able to use the Varigrind jig, because even though I still have a couple of inches of flute there, there isn't enough tool sticking out of the handle. If I had this in a metal handle, that would not be an issue. I'd be able to use it right down. And the shape is very pleasing to the hand on these. This tool is the what they call their detail tool. It's 3/8 bar, but the flute that's machined in it appears to be about the same as the flute on my 1/4 inch spindle gouge. And it's machined away at the end, on the underside at the end, to make the tip quite narrow and let you get into some pretty tight details. With the 1/4 inch gouge, because it's only 1/4 of an inch, it gets a little flexible. You don't dare use that with much in the way of tool overhang over the tool rest, or you get a lot of chatter. And it seems to me that I have actually had that one bend on me once on a catch, and I had to re-straighten it. I can't see that happening with this. My primary use for that tool actually is when I'm making my Christmas ornament pendants. This deep cove right here is one spot where I use this pretty much exclusively so far. But because I'm right up at the chuck, getting the tool rest close enough can sometimes be a problem with this tool. But I can see that I'll be able to do the same sort of detail with this tool, and because it's a 3/8 bar, having not being able to get the tool rest right up tight shouldn't be a problem. I'm sure there are going to be other spots where I find that quite useful, but I haven't been doing a lot of... I did try out all the tools just on some practice pieces, chucked up some pieces of wood and had at them with the spindle tools to try them out, and I have been very, very pleased with them. They do a really good job. They're sharp. I haven't had to resharpen any of these ones yet. So I'm not sure about the claim about them being easy to sharpen, so I can attest to them Where'd that go? Shipped sharp, yes, definitely shipped sharp. Stays sharp. I don't know as I've used these particular tools enough to say that the edge lasts any longer than my other tools, but they certainly stay sharp so far. And if the bowl gouge is any indication, then they do stay sharp for a long time, because I have been using the bowl gouge. And one of the reasons it's taken me 10 days to put together this video is because I wanted to wait until I'd needed to sharpen it so I could say whether it was easy to sharpen or not. So I have been turning, let's see, what did I do? I did the finish turning. This was a bowl that I roughed out last summer, and I did the finish turning on it with this bowl gouge. And then I roughed out a couple of box elder bowls, and these were like from the log, so I was cutting through bark and dirt and everything else. And after I'd done those two, I put some dry hard maple, and still getting an excellent surface right off the tool. The piece of maple that I used was cut off the end of this board, and unfortunately where this ambrosia stain runs, there is a check running right down the middle of it. And I had hoped that it would be shallow, but once I got turning the bowl, I realized that the check came all the way up, almost as far as the ambrosia stain did. So once I had it roughed out, I just split it in half at the check to see whether, just to check myself on the wall thickness and stuff like that, because it wasn't going to be a finished bowl anyway. But the surface finish on dry hard maple, which can sometimes be a little bit of a problem, was not a problem on those. So the gouge was still cutting well and leaving a good finish. So I put on a half log of white ash, and again I was cutting through the bark and everything else and still getting a good finish right off the tool. So I was getting a little frustrated at not being able to check. I didn't want to regrind the tool until it needed it. So I finally slogged through the snow to my main wood stash and dug out a couple of large pieces of box elder or Manitoba maple, whatever you want to call it. And again, I was cutting through bark and dirt and everything else. So I roughed the outside of this one and got it ready for coring. And then I roughed the outside of this one and got it ready for coring. And finally, the tool was still cutting well, but my surface finish was not as good. I was getting a little bit of tear out, so I finally decided it was time to try re-sharpening the gouge. And my sharpening medium is Norton Blue aluminum oxide stones, and it worked just fine. That ground just as easily as any of my other gouges, and took an excellent edge again. So I was extremely happy with that. And I really don't know as I would have ever been able to cut that many blanks with one gouge. Any of my other gouges, not considering that I was cutting through bark and its associated embedded grit and dirt and everything else. Now the only criticism, mild criticism I can find, is that the largest handle, which comes on both the roughing gouge and the bowl gouge, and it's fine on the roughing gouge because when I'm roughing, I'm holding the tool like this. But when I am doing a bowl, when I'm roughing the outside of a bowl, I tend to be holding the tool like this, with the butt end against my left hip, turning left-handed. And my left hand just naturally falls right on the narrow part of the handle. And I found that when I started roughing the greenwood bowls, that because of the size of my hands and the diameter of the handle right there, I didn't feel as though my grip was completely secure. I couldn't close my hand any tighter because my fingers were bottomed out, and I can't grip it tight enough to stop me being able to turn it in my hand. When I was using it, I'm talking about the bowl gouge now. When I was using it, there were a couple of times it felt as though when I was taking a heavy roughing cut, it almost felt as though I was on the verge of letting the tool rotate in my hand. So I went and bought some grip wrap and put on the handle, and that has completely eliminated that issue for me. Now there is no problem at all in holding on to that. And that's the only handle that I felt any need to do that with. The other ones, when I'm spindle turning, and these are spindle turning tools, I am almost always holding the fatter part of the handle where there's some knurling there, some texture to help with the grip. The handles are very smooth, and when you're working with greenwood, your hands get wet. That doesn't give the most secure grip. Some texture there and a little more diameter, for my hands anyway, would be a welcome addition. but I am very, very impressed with these tools. That is definitely worth a look at the Carter & Son Toolworks tools. I really like that bowl gouge, and I really, really like that skew, what little I've done with it so far. And as I said, I find this spindle roughing gouge to be a very impressive tool. It's so solid feeling. So these are the Carter & Son Toolworks tools, and if you're on the market for tools at all, they're certainly worth a look. I have been very, very impressed with them. So thank you for watching.